All right, let's go ahead now and write some tests for this method right here. So register new customer. So what I'm going to do is actually remove all of these comments. And now remember, to create a test, go ahead and simply press Shift Command T and then enter. And right here, so let's simply go ahead and for this class, let's go ahead and click on set up before. And also, we're not going to select this one because we're going to have our a different name. So okay, there we go. So now let's go ahead and simply say private final and then customer registration service, and then remember under and then test. So here, let's go ahead and within before each, let's say under test equals to and then new and then customer registration. And actually this is not meant to be final, just like this, right? So this means that before each test, I'm going to have a fresh instance of customer registration service. So right here, we have to pass the customer repository. Now, this is very important for you to understand. So as I said, so customer repository, so let's go back to the actual tests class. So right here, we already proved that the customer registration, or actually the customer repository, so customer repository does work. We can save customers, we can select by phone number, we cannot save when the name is null, so on and so forth, right? So we actually absolutely tested that this class works in isolation. So we've tested the unit on its own, right? And this is what you have to understand when you write unit tests. You want to test each unit, right? So you test a unit and you guarantee that it works. Once you guarantee that it works, you don't have to test it again. You don't have to test it again in other classes. All you have to do is simply mock it. Please make sure that you understand this, right? Make sure you understand. So once you test the unit in isolation and then you have another test, right? If you depend on that class that you have tested in isolation, you simply mock it, right? Because you want your unit tests to be fast. You want them to run fast, right? So if I was to include again the same annotation right here at data JPA test, right? So this would spin up an in-memory database. It would be slow, and basically I'm actually, doing an integration test at this point. I'm going to touch more about integration test, but integration test is when you test the entire application, right? So as soon as you start testing two units at the same time, right? So you have real instances of those two units, it means that something is wrong, right? That shouldn't be a unit test, right? And hence the name unit test. You simply test one unit in isolation. So right here, what we're going to do is actually mock the customer repository. If you want to learn more about mocking and Mockito, go ahead and check my website where I've got a free course teaching what is a mock, how to use it, so on and so forth. But for now, I'm going to make it easy for you to understand. So let's go ahead and simply right here. So before our under test, let's go ahead and simply say private and then customer repository right here. So we have the customer repository. Now simply say at and then mock. So this is how you create a mock. Now for you to initialize the actual mock, simply say mockito.annotations init mock and then say this. So this is the actual test class within this test class, right? We're going to initialize all the classes that we have this annotation right here. So this is one way of creating mocks, but if you don't like this, you can simply remove that as well, and then you simply say equals to and then mock, and then right here simply do a static import and then simply pass the customer repository class. So both ways are fine, right? And then you simply pass it inside of the under test. So right here simply say customer repository, and there we go. So I actually prefer using annotations, so I'm going to go with annotations just like that, and then remove that, and there we go. So this is everything for this video, and I wanted to show you exactly how you pretty much just mock a class within another, right? So right here. So as I said, we don't want to bring the logic from customer repository because we already know that it works, right? So if I was to say, for example, at and then auto wire, so then I would need to say at and then data JPA test H2 database. The test would be slow, and we don't want that. With unit tests, we want the tests to be fast, and also you want to test the actual unit in isolation. Everything within the outside world, we simply mock it. So right here, simply say add and then mock. So there we go. If this was a bit confusing, go ahead and drop me a message and I'll be more than happy to give you further explanations, right? But it's very important that you understand this. So if you are not quite clear, drop me a message and I'll make sure you fully understand it. This is all for now. Catch me on the next one.